Hi, I'm Danielle Davies, and you're listening to Roar, a show that amplifies the voices of women breaking barriers, leading change, and making real impact. Keep listening for bold ideas and stories that inspire you to find your voice and make some noise. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Roar. I'm your host, Danielle Davies. My guest today is Gifty Enright, author, TEDx speaker, coach, and globally recognized expert in women's well-being at work. But what stands out most isn't her resume, it's her refusal to accept burnout as a normal part of women's lives. Years ago, Gifty was doing what many of us do, balancing a demanding career with raising kids, pushing through exhaustion, and trying to hold it all together. When her health, energy, and ambition started slipping away, she didn't just settle for coping. She changed the way she lived and the way she thought. Now she teaches other women how to do the same. In this conversation, we'll talk about the pressure to prove ourselves, the myth of having it all, and what it actually takes to build a life that works for you, not one you're constantly trying to survive. So let's dive in. Thanks so much for being here, Gifty.
Thank you for having me.
Well, and as I said before we started, I've been reading your book, which is Octopus on a Treadmill, which I think there is no better description of a mother. I used to actually say to my children when they were young and asking me for multiple things like they do, the requests just keep coming in, and there are only two of them, that I'm not an octopus. I would say, does it look like I have 8 arms? I'm not an octopus. So that really resonated with me. Can you start us with the beginning? Can you take us back to who you were before burnout forced a reckoning?
Yeah, so the person I was that type A person, and literally, what any man can do, I can do better. And just, going toe to toe, very competitive with the men at work. And I was just climbing up the corporate ladder. Nothing was going to stop me. Obviously, at that time, I didn't know what I didn't know. So talking about burnout, I had a full-on consulting job with travel and all the other things. I had a side gig as well, a side hustle. And there were kids, 2 kids, 2 dogs, and a husband, right? So there was a lot going on. And at any one point, I had to find out, where's my head? Which space is my head in? And I am that type of person. I like to be busy. I mean, my husband says I'm dangerous when I have nothing to do. And it's true. I am that type of person. But what I didn't know was that my body had other ideas, and that nobody was born to operate that way forever. And you have to, yes, you can go 100 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour, and that is fine, but not forever. You have to find a way of, when you do your 100 miles an hour, find downtime and chill. And so I found myself standing in Harley Street, which here in the UK is this particular street full of, private doctors and stuff. Clutching a spreadsheet of 14 symptoms, going to see a specialist because, my own doctor wasn't taking me seriously. And my husband is like, if you don't get this sorted out, because he was fed up of my mood swings and whatever. So something had to give, something had to change, and so I was practically brought to my knees by this sort of hustle culture and high octane lifestyle, which I thought that was what it was supposed to be. That was what life was supposed to be. You're supposed to chase all those things, get all those material things, and then you'll be happy. And I did that, got all those things, and I was the most unhappiest I'd been since I can't even remember. So there you go.
Well, and you talk in the beginning about your book, and I think this is before the 14 symptoms, though, the surgery that you had to kind of undergo. And then the fact that even though you had to undergo the surgery, you bounced back, you were at a doctor's appointment. They're like, well, how are you? And you're like, me? I'm not even here for me. We're so used to as women, as mothers, being the fixer,
Yeah.
you don't even consider the time it takes to fix yourself, or kind of, they say, what is the thing? Put the oxygen mask on yourself. And I always joke to my husband, who's a wonderful guy, you don't have any problem. You've nailed self-care. You will put that oxygen mask on first. You're going to listen. Whereas even if they tell me I'm going to throw it on my kids first, it's just a lot of times in our nature. So can you tell us about that bring you to your knees moment that made you realize you can't keep living like this? And then what you did to kind of rewire?
Yeah.
Beginning of the rewiring?
Yeah. So that moment you mentioned when the doctor asked me, and I remember that clearly. So I was there with my mom and the baby. And, my mom, she's 88 now, but back then she had multiple things. It had to be seen to by the doctor. And so when the doctor asked me, how are you? That was just a complete blindside. I'm not even in this equation, right? There's a baby, that's my mom. Why are you asking about me? And again, you see, when you said about, when it comes to the men and the oxygen mask, society conditions them in such a way that they are very good at the boundary stuff. We're not, because we're supposed to be nurturers. We're supposed to give and give and give until we buckle. And if you're not giving until you're buckling, you're a bad mother, you're a bad sister, you're a bad daughter, you're bad whatever. And so nobody had pulled me aside to tell me otherwise. So I didn't know any better. I had to keep being a good, all the roles I was playing, mother, daughter, wife, sister, the whole shebang. And so when I was on my knees, where literally I come home, sit down from work and just I open my eyes next and the telly will be watching me, right? Because I would have fallen asleep and stuff. You think this is no way to live. And my kids, and again, people say, there's no point in regret. And it's true. So it's a useless emotion because what are you going to do? It's already happened. If you're regretting, it's already happened, right? But I regret not being a present mother at that time, and there were things that I had to retrofit. And obviously it's harder to retrofit and it takes longer to retrofit than if you got it right in the first time. But when I was on my knees, I love these children dearly, but they'll come and ask me, Mom, for something, I'll be thinking, oh God.
Yes.
And luckily for me, I got boys, so I could always use the go and ask your dad card, right? Go and ask your dad to play whatever it was, but it was just horrid that all these things that I wanted, I got them physically, but I couldn't enjoy them. I was stressed out. I was irritable with my children. My husband was getting his ears chewed off for just breathing. It was just insane. I couldn't live like that anymore. I had to do something. And so trying to find my way back, that was actually even harder than how I got in there, because how I got in there was just following my conditioning, right? Trying to be a good whatever. But coming out, though, I remember going to my doctor and she was like, so you're tired all the time. You got small kids, you got a full-time job. This is normal. It was supposed to be normal. That's just the way it is. And I thought, I don't think so, And so it's that fighting to be taken seriously, as in there's something not right here, something's wrong. And me, myself, going on a self-discovery. And for my sins, because I'm 105, this also coincided with the perimenopause. So you had, the burnout symptoms, you had the perimenopause symptoms, all meshing into one. And I didn't know which way was up. Seriously, it took every ounce of everything I had to go to work and be all, hey, I know what I'm doing, and then just come home and just collapse. And so it was a complete overhaul of the lifestyle. That was the first thing for me, lifestyle. In terms of what I eat, in terms of like before then, I did used to exercise. Well, I hated sweat. Do you know? So
I'm sorry. I hate it also. I also, I mean, who likes it? It's gross. I just.
Why and oh God and all that kind of stuff. So, because I didn't understand anything about anything, and your body will let you get away with all that madness up to a point, and then after a while, it just says, "No, I'm not doing it anymore. No, no, I'm just gonna just no." And then you have to stop and pay attention. So it was a complete overhaul. And when I say that, I mean holistically. So I'm looking at mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and find a different framework, a different way of doing life, a sustainable way of doing life, because what I was doing wasn't sustainable.
Hey everyone, I've got some exciting news. I'm partnering with Louie, that's Luwi, a company that's reimagined women's health through the lens of the P word. Yep, pleasure. Because pleasure's a vital sign. It's not taboo, it's not indulgent, it's wellness. Louie Lube is more than a silicone-based formula that skips the toxins and hormone disruptors. It's the start of a movement that puts wellness and pleasure first. Order Louie Lube at getlouie.com, that's GETLUWI.com, and use code ROAR15, that's ROAR15, for a special discount at checkout. I was going to ask you something else, but now I kind of just have to, I'm following along here. First of all, can you tell me what you did? Can you share this with us? Because I almost want to be like, after you tell me, would you be able to tell me like what your day used to look like versus what your day looks like now so I can see it? Because of course I want to do everything you're talking about now. And I am, yes. Yep. And I don't think I'm alone, which is why you're a public speaker.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So honestly, I used to stay up because I've never been, well, I'm not like that anymore, but I left to my own devices then. I'll be the one up at 2:00 watching Netflix, right? And then we're in the morning, can't get up and thinking, why can't I get up and be fighting with the alarm, hitting snooze, right? And so I had to sort out my bedtime pronto and make sure I was getting my 8 hours, right? Because that tiredness I was feeling was just because of my erratic lifestyle. And I didn't know that. And I was having this memory issues and memory fog and all that. And I challenge anybody that's got that foggy brain thing. Sort out your sleep. And within 2 weeks, you'll be surprised. You will be surprised. So it was things like that, sorting out my sleep, sorting out what I ate, because I thought I ate healthily. I thought I knew about food and ate healthily and all that. I didn't. So I had to go and learn about food properly and understand what is good for me, what's not good for me, and all that kind of stuff. And it was interesting and the body is so smart, it just adjusts very quickly as well. So I used to have wine gums. I don't know if you guys have it in the US. Maybe you call it something else. It's wine gums. It's sweets, but
okay.
It's like jelly, as we call it, wine gums over here. You get different flavors. And I used to have it by the bucket loads, So I have these sugar cravings and really terrible sugar cravings. And so because I'm lactose intolerant, the wine gums didn't have any dairy in there. So literally I'll open the packet and just, down it. And I didn't know why I would be craving. And obviously I'll be craving at certain times of the month as well. And I still wouldn't, I always had to have a packet of wine gums. But then, it's just blood sugar levels all over the place. And then, when you are approaching your periods, it's different things happening with your body. I didn't understand any of that. And so I have these cravings. I just keep feeding my face all the sugar stuff. And, I wake up in the morning and breakfast, more sugar stuff. Right. So
because you need to keep yourself up because you're tired, right?
Right. And the body will crave that because it wants that quick energy. Do you know? And sugar will give you that quick energy, but it is not where the nutrients and everything that you need. Do you know? And in the morning, when you're having that sugar stuff, you're spiking the blood sugar, and for the rest of the day, your body's chasing that high. Do you know? And so you're looking for more. And so I had to learn about that, learn about what to eat, for example, so I don't have the sugar spike during the day, because at that time,
Okay.
and I mean, this is going back years now. So at that time, nobody was talking about sugar being the thing that makes people put on weight and all that. Everybody was still thinking it was the fat, right?
Oh, got it. Okay.
Right. And so it was just people will be having low fat, whatever it is, and, sugar packed, whatever. But it was understanding. So and I love food, by the way, and I love cooking and all the lovely stuff. And for me, it was good to understand about food, understand what is good for me and how to support my body. And so I went and learned about that. And I mean, I understand the savory breakfast was better for me than going to have the sugary one because I don't want to chase the sugar high type thing. Do you know? Um, and so basically I changed food and then hydration. Do you know? I wasn't hydrating. No. Do you know? No, I wasn't hydrating. But again, I understood that and then, started including my hydration and I had a system in the morning where I would start. So by the end of the day, I had enough, of my hydration. So that was on a physical side, obviously, and then introducing exercise into my life. So that's a physical side. And if we talk about the emotional side, of course, I had a very stressful life. But was I processing that stress in any way? No, I had no stress management techniques. I was just, stress. Okay, let's all wave our hands and flap our hands. We're stressed. And then it will pass and then off you go again. Nothing to process and let it out. Do you know what I mean? And so, it's learning about stress management and learning, how to get it out of my body, for example. I mean, this is where exercise, like it can cut through stress like knife through butter, and understanding all those things and just building a life that allows me to manage my thoughts. So this is the emotional side as well, because, something negative happens and I will be there stewing and stewing and stewing. Over it, and then you get caught in this loop and it's going
Absolutely.
right. And again, so it's learning how to manage my thoughts because they affect how I'm feeling on the emotional side. And then when it gets to spiritual, it was having a framework. And this is different from different people. It's what works for you. Do you know? It's just having that spiritual framework that allows you to live a life that serves you. So I'll give you an example of that. So it's not something esoteric, but I mean, I believe my body is a temple. And if your body is a temple, you're not going to put rubbish in your body. Do you see what I mean? Nobody
Yes.
puts rubbish in the temple. So it is having that philosophical framework that allows you to live the life that works for you, that is also sustainable.
How long, but this is, I mean, you can say it in a few minutes, but how long did it take to implement all of these changes? Because it's really, you're talking about a whole lifestyle overhaul.
Yes, absolutely. And I would say for me to start seeing that, it would have taken me about 3 months to try different things and what works and what doesn't work. Because in the book, I talk about a funny story there. I tried because I did try different modalities and what I'm going to settle on and what I'm not going to settle on. And yeah, so I would say it's like the sleep. When I fixed the sleep, within 2 weeks, I could feel the benefit, right? And so I had to get religious about my sleep, for example. But that's very easy to implement, And then the food, understanding about food, that took a while. And continuous learning and doing things I didn't like. And my kids had to eat some weird stuff, but there you go. And some things work, some things didn't work. There was that. And then finding a routine that works for me, like a daily routine, That
Okay.
works for me. So you're not getting up and first thing you're on the phone, and then it gets your cortisol up, and then off you're going stressed out even before, you've left the bed. So I changed all that around. So like when I wake up, first thing is, take care of the spirituality bit. So I will do my meditation, do my mindset stuff, and then we're looking at the exercise. And then after the exercise, then that is when I will be looking at anything resembling a phone, do you know?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, just totally being hyper specific, what time do you go to bed now?
So 10. So I have a window. So it's between 10 and 11.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So it's between 10 and 11. And then I will wake up between 6 and 7. So I allow myself that 1 hour flex depending on what's going on. Right.
Okay.
But definitely no later than 11. No later than 11. And then, normally I will wake up about, say, 5:30. If I'm tired, it'll be maybe 7. But so that window I have, 10 and 11 and 6 and 7 in the morning. Yeah.
I only asked that one because that's my own personal. I said to my husband, I'm like, my number one goal of the year is my sleep hygiene. And he was like, what? I'm like, no, really. Because I left to my own devices, I can stay up. And I'll work, but I'm a night owl. And the problem is
Yeah.
that the world does not revolve around us. So you either
No.
get up early and you're exhausted, or you sleep and you're on a schedule that's different from everyone else. So I really relate to that. But I'm sure so many women relate to so much of what you're saying. It's so universal. And I wanted to go back to something you said before I talk about how you work with women now. But, you talked about ambition and you wanted to do it all, but that also some of your regret is that you weren't able to be more present with your children. Do you feel like sometimes wanting more or being ambitious, you're made to feel like a bad mom in society? Like unfortunately, they say we can have it all, but really, if you have children, a lot of times people are like, what aren't you like you have your children, be happy about that. And you almost feel guilty that you want to do something else as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that is one of my favorite things to talk about. Thanks for asking that question. Because, and I say to women, especially when I coach women, you should have it all. I honestly, because there's some people think that, oh, you shouldn't try and have it all, or you can't have it all, and what. Nobody's saying that to men, by the way, right? Nobody's saying that to men. So why is it even being said to us? So for women, you should have it all, but you shouldn't do it all. That is a difference. You shouldn't do it all. You should have it all, but don't do it all. Some people try to nuances by saying, oh, you can't have it all at the same time and whatever it is. No, I am quite belligerent about this. You should have it all at the same time, but do not try to do it all. That is the differentiator. You need to accept help. It takes a village. Get that village, recruit that village, buy that village, and allow them to help you, because we were not supposed to be the only ones in our children's lives. It's not even healthy for the children anyway, because they will go into society. They have to know how to relate to everybody. So if you're the one doing everything, running around them like a blue-ass fly, how are they ever, going to get that confidence when you're not around and all the rest of it? So I hear what you're saying about women are made to feel guilty about going into the workplace, but unless men are made to feel guilty, women have got no business feeling guilty. Point one. Point two, if you have the systems in place to support you whilst you head into the workplace so that you're not dropping any balls, that deals with the guilt. Because what happens is sometimes, because we've got a million things on our plate, and we haven't learned how to delegate, and we haven't built our village, and we don't have the ninja communication skills to communicate our boundaries, we end up with too much on our plate. And so what happens? You drop a ball or 10. And then the bad mother thing, and then people are wagging their fingers like, yeah, we knew you couldn't do it all, and all that nonsense. And you shouldn't do it all, but you should absolutely have it all, because the men aren't doing it all, because some woman is subsidizing them having it all. But then when we're trying to have it all, we don't have that subsidy.
Right. We don't have those systems in place.
No.
Now, is this part of when you work with a lot of professional women and you coach and you speak, is this what are you trying to help them build that system? Could you walk us through that?
Yes. So it's the systems. So, I mean, when I work with women, so again, I work holistically. So first off, we're looking at you. So what I was talking about in terms of the physical side, the food, the exercise, the whole emotional processing and all that, we deal with that first. So sometimes somebody will come to me and say, oh, I wanted to balance family and career. You're making me eat kale. Yeah, because... because it's important, and then, once the body is strong and you know what you're doing and you know how to process those emotions and all that, then we'll put a strategy on top of it, because nobody can go and have a difficult conversation. Well, they can, but they will not get anywhere if you yourself are not feeling physically and emotionally strong and you're all over the place, right? And life is difficult, life is tough. And so you need a strong body and a strong mind to be able to deal with life. Otherwise, you just be blown about by everything that comes at you. And whilst that is happening, whilst you're being blown about, guess what? The kids are watching because they think, oh, this is the norm. This is life. It's scary. This is how it's supposed to be. No. You don't want to pass on all that dodgy conditioning to them.
Yes. And you're right. And I feel like that is kind of the biggest guilt you have as a mom, or at least I hear that from people. You are trying to do everything. You're like an octopus, and but you're also trying to portray yourself as handling stress all right, so that your kids can take that on and handle stress themselves, but you're not. And they can see through all of the pretense.
Yes, they can. It cuts through. They can see through. Absolutely. See through, because they feel these things. They're not stupid. And even when they don't have the words to articulate it, they feel it, and so, again, when I was chasing the wrong things, I thought, the big house, a big car, whatever, that would bring security and all that. That's not what makes them feel secure. What makes them feel secure is for them to know you see them, right? That is what makes them feel secure. You see them for whoever, whatever they are. They need to feel seen. So as a parent, your job, obviously, to protect them physically, and all that, and also make them feel seen. Because if at their core, they don't feel seen and they don't feel they belong, that's what leads to all the other, downstream psychological issues and all the anxiety and all the rest of it. So at the start, you need to make them feel seen and important. And when you're engaging with them, they are the center of your world, because you are the center of their world. Right? So you're informing a lot for them. And so if you're so when I'm coaching women and they're taking all these things, porous boundaries, and sitting there all resentful, what I'm telling them is that resentment, right? Whatever you're giving to the child when you haven't done the boundaries is contaminated, right? It is contaminated. So that's not what you want to be giving the child. It's better not to give them anything than to give them that contaminated attention and love and whatever it is. It's better to just remove yourself, go deal with your issues, and then come back and give them what you're supposed to give them. Because otherwise, that contamination that you're passing on to them, they don't have the tools. They're not that developed. So they process it wrongly and they go down the it's my fault route. Right? It's my fault, mommy is this. It's my fault, mommy can't cope with this. That's how they process it. And you don't want that. You don't want that.
Well, and a lot, it sounds like, and I read a lot of things you're talking about is boundaries to create these systems. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and what you see as kind of the easiest or the simplest or the ones that have the least resistance versus the ones that are the hardest kind of for you to hold or for women to hold?
Yeah, I can talk about boundaries until the cows come home. Because, and I'm sure now everybody knows no is a complete sentence. But it's like sometimes when we have to say no, rather than just saying no, we feel we have to give a whole TED talk rather than just say no. And the boundaries come from low, or lack of boundaries come from low self-esteem and low self-worth. Because if you honestly thought you're worth it, right, saying no will not be a problem for you. Because listen, my time here, so I was supposed to coach a client yesterday, and she came on the call and she's, I'm at a networking event. And I'm like, listen, darling, you're not going to shoehorn me between a networking event and whatever. We're not doing this call. Go choose another window where you can give yourself that time. If you were a client, if this call was with a client, will you be shoehorning the client between a networking event and whatever? No, but because it's a her, we never give ourselves that attention, right? But this was something for her, is that I'm going to shoehorn it in between that and that because I can't possibly be that important. So when you're looking at self-worth and self-esteem, those are the sort of things that make it hard for people to say no. And if you think you're worth it, it will be easier to say no, right? And like my women, I make them go and take a survey so they can find where they are on the self-esteem chart. And so what we're saying about is the easiest. So boundaries, a definition of boundaries I heard, well, I forget who I heard it from, but I thought it was great. It allows you to be your best self for others. It allows you to serve others better, right? So if you want to do good by your kids, if you want to serve your kids better, you have to have those boundaries, because otherwise you will be serving them from a substandard place. And your children deserve premium, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. And it's so interesting, you're saying this, because I feel like, and it is, so much of it is societal, and I don't know, it's what you grew up with, but my sister and I talk about all the time. We're like, we joke when we're talking to one another about something we're going to tell our mom, or some, our relationship with our family who we adore, and we're with them. And my sister will joke and she'll say, well, my lack of boundaries, but she's taking the blame on herself. But really it is societally kind of expected that we will say yes or no. I had a reading done, human design. Have you heard of human design? A friend of mine did human design, and she was doing one, and she said to me, and it stuck with me, if it's not a full body yes for you, it's a no. And I've thought about that, as I've said yes to a million things that don't feel full-bodied yeses, and I'd rather not do, but I end up doing anyway. I'm like, I have to stick to that. I will be a better person for all the people around me if I adhere to that boundary, and I say, okay, if it doesn't feel like a yes, then maybe it's a no. But societally, it is so hard for us to let people down. What is this one of the hardest things for women that you train to do?
Yeah, because we have been conditioned into that good girl thing, right? So we're always looking for validation. We're looking for praise, and because of that, because you're looking for that, so the validation, approval, praise, right? That's the condition. So we're always looking for those. And so if you're going to say no to somebody, you're going to put their nose out of joint, and your conditioning doesn't allow that. You cannot inconvenience somebody else, because you're not going to get the praise, you're not going to get the approval. So suddenly the alarm bells start going in your head, because you are going to, I don't know, inconvenience somebody. Excuse me, what about you? Right? So if you flip that somebody for you, right, then it should be, if you're going to feel uncomfortable about inconveniencing somebody, you should feel uncomfortable about inconveniencing you. That easy. Just flip it, swap it out. Right? So at any point, who are you inconveniencing? Is it you or somebody else? And when it comes to us inconveniencing ourselves, with it's all right, it's all right, I'll swallow it or whatever it is, because we think the other person can't cope. And damn right, they can't cope because you've been subsidizing them all this time. So of course they won't cope. And unless you allow people to know what is okay with you and what's not okay with you, they will merrily carry on, even if they know it's not okay with you. If you haven't said it, they will merrily carry on because it's convenient for them to carry on. So we cannot expect other people to enforce our boundaries for us. No, that is the job you have to do yourself. And you have to know where your red lines are, because some people don't even know where their red lines are. They really don't, and even when they think this is a red line, they just go over it because, they've been feeling so bad all their lives, they don't even know what good feels like. And so it's finding your backbone, finding your spine, knowing where your red lines are, and arming yourself with the tools to be able to communicate, because knowing a boundary doesn't mean you can't communicate it. And why don't people communicate it? Because they're going to lose love, they're going to lose praise, they're going to lose approval, all that kind of stuff. And they don't want to lose it. So there's almost an ego death thing that they don't want, right? So because of that, they would rather inconvenience themselves, for example, than say no to somebody. I mean, there was this thing about in the aviation industry where basically the stewardesses and staff, people find it so hard to say no, they would almost rather, watch the plane crash than say no to a pilot or something. But this is so built in us. So they had to come up with code words that they could use to allow them to say to somebody in a senior position up in the air that, mate, what you're doing is not okay. Anything but no. So
wow.
I know, because people would rather die, literally. So it is. I know.
Great. Go ahead.
I know. So it is understanding how we work. And also knowing that, okay, I need the tools that will allow me to say no, and learning those tools, and then you deploy them. So when I coach my women, I make them go have a difficult conversation. It is a task they have to do. I make them go have a difficult conversation. I choose anybody, your boss, your husband. One woman chose her mother-in-law. I thought that was brave, but hey ho. Right? To go have that boundary conversation, because the mother-in-law used to bring the kids back whenever she had them high on, sugar and everything, and they would take them hours to calm down, and the routine all over the place. And so she didn't like that. But she found it hard to tell her mother-in-law because, it's a mother-in-law. And then, the mother-in-law was helping by taking the kids off her hands. So,
so you feel like you owe them to not say something.
Yes. For me, that was, when it came to boundaries, that was one of the things I struggled with the most. And also I had no issue, maybe it's because of the rebel in me, speaking truth to power and saying no to power. But when it came to subordinates, and, I found it hard because I'm thinking, oh, poor them and whatever, and I'd rather inconvenience myself. That's something I had to learn. Even if somebody's doing you a favor or whatever it is, you still have a right to say no or communicate your requirements clearly to them, because it makes for a cleaner relationship with them. Otherwise, you're resentful, they're resentful, nobody's happy.
And this is part of what is this part of what you yourself mentally kind of changed your brain to start addressing and doing? Or is this something you had in you before, you just didn't maybe utilize it? I feel some women have, you just said you have no problem speaking truth to power. Some people are much more timid, I find, and have a harder time verbalizing or vocalizing anything like that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
were you already kind of there? I'm just curious what it was like in your own transition.
Yeah. So, and this is, and also understanding your patterns, do you know? Because
Yeah.
I thought I was assertive, do you know, until I had to understand that, yes, I was assertive with people outside my home, right? But when
Yeah.
it came to my nearest and dearest, it was like everybody was getting away with blue murder and all that. So again, it's understanding. So at work, where I would not like put up with that nonsense for a second, do you know? I will come to friends and family, and then, you know, I'll be a different person. So it's also understanding my patterns and understanding that it's something, if somebody's crossing my red line, it doesn't matter whether they're a boss or my sister, you know, I had the right, you know, to be able to communicate my needs to whomever needed to know, so long as I was respectful and wasn't attacking the individual. I had a right to communicate mine, because that's what you're doing. You're communicating a need. That's what, if it's a red line for you, is a need. And so if you're not communicating that need, you're compromising your relationship.
How do you help your clients kind of establish, you said that they don't all know where that red line is. How do they work through that and even identify that these are the things that are kind of maybe soul sucking?
Yeah. So, and this is it. So, well, first of all, I make them go take the self-esteem questionnaire. And then I also give them their rights, because a lot of people don't even know what their rights are. They really don't know what their rights are. And so I have a whole list. I give to them that these are your rights. And so the ones that you're uncomfortable with, start learning, because these are your rights. Do you know? Things like, this is one people struggle with, that you have a right to change your mind. Do you know? You have a right to change your mind. So you said yes to something and things have changed. Do you know? And so you have a right to change your mind. And even if things haven't changed, you have a right to change your mind. Do you know? And they're like, oh, okay, I said yes, I'm going to die in a ditch over it. No. Right. And so,
And it sounds so simple when you say it, but people really do tear themselves up over saying, well, I said I would go.
yeah.
I told them I would be there. And how do you differentiate saying you have the right to change your mind with also saying, okay, you may be letting someone down? Like, because there's also that, right? So it's a play that you have to.
But listen, life, in terms of skills of life, right? One of the main, if you want to get on in life, you have to be able to handle rejection. And at some point, you're going to let somebody down, willingly or unwillingly. Or is it willingly, wittingly, and wittingly or unwittingly? Going
Both.
to let somebody down, right? And some of us, our self-esteem was not going to, because everything had to be perfect, everything had to be a-okay, and we cannot be seen to be messing up or whatever. So because of that, you can't possibly let anybody down. Your self-esteem just couldn't handle it. Do you know? But think about it. We all mess up sometimes. We all make mistakes sometimes, and we all at some point will let somebody down. Do you know? And so long as you're not doing it out of badness, then that, because that's a different story. So don't be bad. Don't do it out of badness. But do you know, you promised to go help somebody and they've made their plans and included you in it, and now you can't do it because of X, Y, Z. Do you know? Now, what people do is, because they're afraid to tell the person what happens, they will leave it till the last minute and then really let the person down. That's not fair. That's not fair. Do you know? And so rather than sitting there in fear and in fear and in fear and in fear, oh my God, they're gonna whatever, if you told them as soon as, it would have given them a chance to do something about it. Do you know? So in the end, and this is what I mean by compromised relationships, if you don't enforce your boundaries, you do contaminate your relationships if you don't enforce boundaries, because you breed resentment on either sides, because you're going to let somebody down if you're not clear with them, and they're going to feel disappointed and all the rest of it. And if you don't want to do it and you do it, you will be there resenting doing it all the time. And they sense this too. So at some point, the being afraid to let somebody down is not a good enough excuse. If you genuinely cannot do what it is that they're asking you to do, because at some point in life, everybody lets somebody down. That is just a fact. And you just need to be authentic about it when it happens. Let people know so they have a chance to plan rather than, leaving it last minute and then phoning them on the day and telling them you're sick.
Gotcha. Well, and let's talk about how all of these things leads to what you were talking about before, where you're like, no, you can have it all.
Yeah.
How does that work? Like, can you tell me how that works?
Yeah. Yes. And so I have a whole module I teach called equitable living. And so that's about having it all, because there are households that you will have the woman running around after everybody, doing the laundry, the food, everything for everybody. And then she's exhausted. And then, there are other human beings in the house and they're doing what they want, but she is doing everything else that she has to do, right? And it's because she has not communicated boundaries. And so the thing about equitable living, when I teach these women, I say to them, look at your household as an enterprise, with you and your husband as directors and the kids and whatever as employees and stuff, right? And you are sharing everything because you guys are running this outfit together. And I honestly believe as soon as a child is upright, give them a job. If they can walk, give them a job. Even if they have to drag their clothes, whatever, give them a job. Because what happens, it actually builds their confidence, it builds their self-esteem and their sense of self as well. They're contributing to the household. And it means when they leave home, they're independent, they can do their own laundry, blah, blah, blah. Right. So it is about pulling them in, when I talk about some of the things I had to retrofit, because I was working 24/7, whatever. I had nannies and whatever. And yes, I would try and impart my values, but for somebody else, it was easier to do it themselves than get the kids to do it,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? Right. And so
absolutely. Let me just take care of it. I'll be faster and more efficient.
Rather than, getting the kids to do it and stuff like that. And so then you will be having the wars at the weekend because it's like, so and so lets me do such and you're asking me to do such and all that. But like now, my kids have grown up and, I cook when I want to eat, because my point is everybody's got hands, right? Everybody's got hands. Everybody can read. So everybody can read a recipe. I'm the shortest person in this house. Everybody in this house is 6 foot. They're all bigger and stronger than me. So I expect them to wait on me.
I think that's fantastic. So that's one of the boundaries that you set and establish in your home?
Yeah, everybody has got to contribute. They have to do their bit. They have to do their bit, And like my boys now, if I am cooking, I suppose my compromise is if I am cooking, I cook for everybody because it's enough. But if they're cooking, they will cook for themselves. Oh, fine, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that, right? But if I'm cooking, I cook for everybody. But otherwise, if I'm not cooking and people are hungry, you know where the fridge is, you know where everything is. You've got hands, I've got hands.
I love that. Because I feel like so many times, and I specifically hear this sentence from moms, I'll just eat cereal. Like as if that's the thing we all will do. We're all willing to do that to not have to cook.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
But you have to give them the skills to support you. And so when I talk about equitable living, you're sharing everything and it's good for the kids. It is good for the kids and it takes the pressure off you as well. So you're not running around doing everything. So, you have whoever's doing the bins, whoever is doing the laundry, whatever, but everybody has their bit that they're doing. And I mean, like, if my boys expected me to do their laundry, they'll have something else coming. Like, no, I ain't doing nobody's laundry. They go hands.
There you go. But
Yeah.
how long, and out of curiosity, well, you started this journey kind of into this world of coaching and kind of understanding your own approach to this, sure, when your children were very little, right? But they were already in existence. Is that
Yes,
right?
they were in existence. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's not like you said you had to go back and retrofit. It's not like you had this.
No, they were in existence. So my oldest now, who is what, 25? Yeah, yeah. He would have been like 10 or even maybe early teenage. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. Okay.
yeah,
And you
yeah,
did
yeah.
it though. You retrofitted
Yeah,
it.
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I had to. It was a survival thing, right? It was a survival thing. And it was just, and this is because I think us women, we're not fair to the men, right? Like now my husband does more housework than I do, right? Believe it or not. And he would have done it all along if I had let him, do you know? But I was busy being superwoman, right? And so I didn't know about this equitable thing and to get everybody involved and all that. So, they'll be there watching telly and I will be there, I don't know, doing all sorts and come downstairs all resentful that they're sitting there watching telly, do you
Yes, and
know?
you're behind the scenes doing it
Yes,
all. Yes.
yes, yes. And
I
so
hear.
it's about people. How I got one woman, she rang me. She didn't become a client in the end, but she had like 7 kids, and she's like, "I'm exhausted." And some of the kids were grown up, and I run around after the kids. Oh, what's the matter with you? You got 7 resources in the house. Do you know? You got 7 helpers. What's the matter with you?
And I feel like it. Tell me what you think of this. You're an expert, and I'm not. I'm just speculating. But I know that my dad. So my dad is 78. He's one of 8 children. When he was young, they all had to do stuff. They
Yeah.
were 8 children. They all had to do a lot of stuff. In fact, we always laugh because he's the godfather of one of his own siblings. Like they're so far apart in age that he was basically expected, if anything happened to the parents, to raise this particular child. So, but as parenting has shifted, right? So it used to be very much a hierarchy, and later times it's become a little bit more of a democracy. People are close to their children, are having conversations with their children that they maybe didn't have in past generations. So things shifted, but unfortunately, along with that shift came somehow one person, the mom, ended up doing all of it. Even I feel like even more than they did way back then. I feel like, yes, there was the mom and maybe she stayed at home and did everything, but she definitely had the kids doing their things also. Now we've shifted a bit, and in some ways good, but in this way, not good. So
I agree.
when you have clients, are you finding what's a thing that is the hardest shift for them? Is it setting the boundaries with like their mothers and their mother-in-law, or is it within their own houses? I'm just curious what you're seeing as someone in this space.
Yeah, it's within the whole own household, and believe it or not, even in this day and age, getting the partner more involved. Even in this day and age, getting their partner more involved. Because I had one woman tell me that, oh, the husband cannot work the washing machine. I'm like, can he read? Can he read? So it's just we accept these roles. And yeah, I don't want to mow the lawn, right? I don't want to put the bins out, but I actually have a spreadsheet that I make them sit down. Yes, yes, I do that.
Going.
And basically, it's like come up with the chores, what it takes to run the household, and then put the names against it. And then because even I love doing this with the women who think that, oh, my husband is good or my partner is good, and they really, they help out. And nobody's supposed to be helping anybody. This is a joint enterprise. So first off, you need to take the help out. right? And then here is the, if you like, here are the deliverables that make this house go round, and who is going to do what. And when you sit down, so one woman, when she thought,
oh, I love this. I love this on so many levels. Keep going. Sorry.
right? So she said, because even the ones that think, oh, yeah, my partner or husband does, by the time they finish that, they realize that they're doing a hell of a lot more because they don't know. They just, when you sit down, you quantify, that's when you realize, oh, okay, shift this here, shift this here, shift this here. And then it becomes a conversation, because also the men or the partners, they're not being bad. There's a lot of things you do with the fairies. It's not even... It's completely oblivious to them because it's just done.
Right.
It's silent running, right? It's silent running. So they think, the elves come in the middle of the night and mop the floors or something, and because you just take it in your stride and you don't make it visible to them. It's just you just do until one day you explode. But rather than doing that, stick it all down. That gives them that visibility as well, and they're surprised then when the men want to help, because they didn't realize you're carrying that burden. You were so efficiently carrying that burden and silently suffering. They had no idea. And when it's there, they look at it and they think, oh, okay, I'll take that. Do you know? And then you have that equitable thing. And one of my women, so they had the son. How old was he? He wasn't that old, but his job then in the evenings was to lay the table. That was his job, and he loved it, absolutely loved it. Do you know? And again, it gives them that sense of self, and they're contributing and all that. So get everybody involved, and you're living equitably, and then you're not there burning out whilst the others are sitting there watching football.
Quick pause to thank all of you for listening. You may have noticed that Roar sounds a little more polished this season. That's thanks to my producer, who's responsible for making this third season sound as good as it does. If you believe in amplifying women's voices and want to support a teeny tiny creative team trying to do big, meaningful things, you can help at buymeacoffee.com/Roar Podcast. Your support truly makes all of this possible. And now let's get back to the show. So tell me from your personal standpoint, how your life changed because these are a lot of things, and we're probably not even covering them all, but you did a full gigantic shift, and you also shifted jobs, right? Because now this is what you do full time. So tell me how your life changed from when you thought you had it all, but you were very unhappy, to now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, it's completely different, So first off, and today I heard that expression for the first time on LinkedIn, putting your heart where your mouth is. No, not putting your heart where your mouth is. It's putting your heart where your money is. That's it.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. I hope I'm saying it the right way. Or putting your money where your heart is. That's it. Or whichever way it goes. But you know what I mean? Because normally we say put your money where your mouth is. Is that the expression normally?
Yes.
Yeah. So put your money where your mouth is, and now you're putting your money where your heart is. And so I was doing what I thought I had to do, rather than what I wanted to do. And we all do that because we've got bills to pay and all the rest of it, And at some point, we all have to do what we have to do. We don't have a choice. But what I say to people is, as soon as you can start doing what you want to do, you need to start pivoting. Because if you're just not doing what you want to do, there's always that sense of disquiet. So you can have all the money you want, but there's that emptiness and all the rest of it. So there is that on the work side. And then for me, it's my relationships with people, where I used to be I had this savior complex, is this like, don't even tell me your problem. I will guess what it is and I'll come and fix it. Right? Insane or what? So I had to give that up, give that savior complex up, even, because what you do is you infantilize people, and then they're all, stand around looking at you all the time to be the savior and come and fix things. And it's exhausting. It's just absolutely exhausting, you know. And now I learned to sit on my hands and watch people go through their own mess ups and whatever and whatever. And I'm not jumping in to save anybody. I'm just, allow them to grow their own wings. Um, so yeah, it's in my relationships. And yes, did it cost me some relationships? Yes. Some dependent relationships? Yes. But did I want that? And now obviously kids are different, but for peers and stuff, I'm not having those dependent relationships. No. No, I don't have to prove anything to anybody. And again, for me, that was a self-esteem issue because I thought my self-esteem was fine and all this. But no, I was still doing that validation, approval, and praise. So by saving people, oh God, isn't she good? Isn't she kind?
Because you're tied to this. It's part of your identity. So
right. And there's several ego deaths you have to suffer by cutting these things off because that validation you're getting is not going to be coming, but it's okay. It's a small price to pay for living your authentic life. So yeah, so my relationships, there had to be a call there, and so that I have cleaner, relationships. And then, of course, physically, I live different now. And also, for me, communication is key, to be able to say to people, that was not okay with me, without thinking. And then there's that expression that those who care will understand, and those that don't understand don't care, right? So if they value you enough, they will make the time and space to hear what you're saying. And if they don't understand, you can have a dialogue, and go from there. So I live very differently now. But like I said, I'm 105. So I've been through the mill a few times and gone through a few dead ends and cul-de-sacs to get to where I am to live, in a different way. Because because we met on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Because my post on LinkedIn, some people, because I get these DMs, go, "God, you're so brave to say that." I'm like, am I? Right? Am I? This is, it's a fact.
But you are brave to say, and that's the thing I was going to say, it's funny, and, you're talking about this and it's so part of who you are. And I know this, and I want our readers to know that you're like this because you've worked on this, and that's how you can coach women to get there. But, what you mentioned about the plane, that's so many of us. So many of us don't want to rock the boat to the extent where we'll just go down. She's also very much on LinkedIn. I love her, Rachel Honeyman. She's a whole branding strategist. She's wonderful. But I interviewed her before because she also does, for women specifically, she teaches a self-defense course to women and she said, we're so trained to be nice that even if we are grossly uncomfortable and someone is coming into our space and we're afraid that they're going to hurt us, we're still being polite.
Right.
We're still being nice, even when our lives are at risk. And so maybe working with you is one of these ways out of it. And I wanted to say, what are some of the ways people can work with you? So coaching is your ultimate, but what are some starter ways besides your book? You've got a free masterclass as well, right?
Yeah. I've got a free masterclass. There's the book. Of course, I go to organizations and I speak and stuff. So, people can hear me speak that way. But yeah, and then there's a coaching. The coaching, I had different levels as well. So,
do you?
Yeah, I have different levels of the coaching. Yeah. So there's if you like, there's a premium, a standard, and a basic, shall we say.
Okay.
So there are different levels of the coaching. Yeah.
And is part of your coaching getting people through, obviously it's understanding these boundaries and doing all these things, but to me, I would imagine that the ultimate goal would be able to, like you said, the assignment is to have these tough conversations, mean, they're tough for a reason. And so I think that that's an incredible assignment. And I'm curious what people come back to you and say after they've had them. If they come back or they just run away.
They do. No, they have. So this is what we do. So they have to choose the difficult conversation they're going to have, right? So before that, we would have done all the communication, the assertiveness and all that before we get to that part. And then they choose, and then I don't just let them go and have the conversation trembling. No, we do a lot of prep. They go in with a script. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I work with them on the script. So whatever the issue is, we come up with a script that they're going to deliver, right? And then we work on the whole setup and stuff, and then they go and deliver the script, and then they come back with the outcome, right? And then sometimes we have to do a do-over with the outcome.
Okay.
Right? To go and come at it from the side, or sometimes they go and they kind of lose their nerve and then, but in terms of that difficult comment, it's the same. It's like I had one woman, she was going to ask for a pay rise, and that was a difficult conversation. She's like, oh yeah, my dad said I shouldn't because, and I'm like, was your dad your coach? She goes, no. I'm like, okay then, shall we not listen to him?
Right. Wow.
Right? It is not what your dad says. So, I'm the one with the script here. So this is all we're going to do. Right? And it was interesting because I actually even wrote about that on LinkedIn. So I was traveling then, dodgy Wi-Fi, and she phoned. She was freaking out in tears and she didn't want to do it. And I'm like, you're going to do it. And repeat after me. Here's the script. What are you going to say? Blah, blah, blah. And because she had got herself in a space where she thought they wouldn't give her the pay rise. And it even wasn't what she wanted to do was not work a 5-day week. She wanted to work a 4-day week, but be paid the same money. So in effect, it was about a 20% pay rise. Do you know what I mean? And so actually, they've never given a 20% to anybody before, and all these excuses. And I'm like, and also what you're asking for actually to them, it's not really a cash flow issue because it's the same money, you're just working 4 days. So you will be surprised, And she was convinced they weren't going to give it to her. I'm like, go ask. And that is, so they have the rights. I give them the rights. And one of your rights is you have a right to ask. That's one of your rights. You have a right to ask. And the other person also has a right to say no. And so long as you understand that, and it flips the other way. So somebody will ask you something and you're like, how dare they ask me? Well, you stop doing that because they have a right to ask. But then it's up to you for you to grow your backbone and your spine to say no. Right? So it works with so you have a right to ask, they have a right to say no. And so, do not deprive yourself of that right to ask. And for all you know, if you stiffen up your spine and ask, you might just get it. And guess what? She got it. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a great, and I've just loved talking to you today. I'm going to let you go because I'm going over our time and I don't want to make you spend the entire day with me, despite the fact that I have 50 million more questions. But if for the women who are listening, for the woman who's listening, nodding along, but doesn't know where to start, what's one shift she can make today that you think would just change something to start her off? One thing somebody could do.
So the one thing is, do not, and I repeat that, do not put yourself last. Because that's what we do. We're going to serve everybody and we put ourselves last. So at every time, it's like, where am I in this? Where am I? Because I always encourage you and put yourself in the center. That's where you have to be as well. You have to be in the center, not to the side or anything. So do not put yourself last. And you cannot pour from an empty cup.
No.
So you owe it to yourself to fill your cup. And if you can get these two things in your head, then when you're trying to pour from an empty cup, you understand you're doing the people a disservice because what you're pouring is empty.
Gifty, you are a wealth of knowledge, and I cannot thank you enough. I'm going to have all the links to your book, your masterclass, your coaching, your TED Talks, everything in our show notes. So if anybody is interested in contacting Gifty, I'll put your LinkedIn contact as well. So she'll be right on there. But thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it was thrilling. Seriously, thank you. A huge thank you to Gifty Enright for joining me today and for such an honest, grounded conversation about what it really means to find balance and reclaim your power. We'll be back next week with Jennifer Hinchy, founder of Fertile, for a conversation about innovation, persistence, and the power of women creating their own solutions. Until then, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on Roar.